one. It's been a while since we have done a podcast, and me and Carol has been talking about we wanting to do this podcast for probably 3 months now. So here we are. We're going to jump right in it because we have a lot to talk about. Carol is one of my friends that I have met. She met me back in 2018, 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, when I was very anti-Jesus, very anti-Christian, very like when I say anti, like I would not even listen to a glimpse of a sermon, listen to a glimpse of gospel music. In fact, they had no idea that I had any church experience. None. It was just, we met at the gym and that's the version that she knows to who I am now. And one thing before I push record, we were talking about like you can do a lot of dumb things and you can unintentionally hurt people or maybe intentionally hurt people. But what's going to expose later on is your intention the whole entire time. And so maybe we'll get into that, but there was some things where we like I wasn't her friend at one point, but I knew that Carol had good intentions, and Carol was, I'm even going to use the word grown enough to reach out to me and apologize. And her intentions was always good, hence why we have a pretty good relationship to this day. And so, Carol, when you first met me, who did you see?
Um, so confession, I was obsessed with Desi when I when I first met her. She represented a goal that I had been struggling my whole life with
Well,
to
yeah, because
achieve.
I was 300
You
pounds.
were 300 pounds and you had lost 100 pounds. By the
I
time I
lost
met you,
100
you
pounds.
had lost pretty close to 100 pounds. Um, and you were the first person that I can actually touch physically that had done that. Like everybody else I had seen was like online
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
years ago or not someone that I knew or that like I had access to. So you were tangible and you were accessible because we were at the same gym. So I was just like, I'm just going to be in her face until she tells me how she did it so that I could do the same thing and I could also lose 100 pounds. And so in the beginning, Desi was not interested in me or anybody else whatsoever, but like I forced my way into being her friend.
I have to meet the part when she met me, I had shifted my marketing and how I presented myself. So I was a very extreme alcoholic and I was going to therapy. I had just, lost my shiznit the second time. And then one day in therapy, I was like, I think I'm gonna hit the gym. And so um, along my weight loss, I was really excited with sharing it, and people made me feel real bad about it. Like, oh, look at you showing off. And I was like, oh, no, that's not what I'm doing. So I shifted from look what hard work and commitment looks like to, oh, look what this person did for me. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made. And then that's the reason why she came to that gym.
Yeah, because I saw your before and after picture and a couple other people and just the really I saw the impact of discipline, of hard work and dedication. But in all of that, those pictures did not give credit to hard work, discipline, and dedication. What those pictures did was give credit to an individual,
Right.
as opposed to giving credit to the people who actually did the work and stayed the course to achieve the magnitude of the change that they had achieved.
Yeah,
So
and
there was like a
it
shift there. It was kind
backfired.
of like I'm I'm the poster child or I'm the sticker face for this accomplishment, but the accomplishment and the success is not mine, it's this other person's.
Right. And it backfired because I even had my own family. My own brother was like, "Yeah, like after everything they did for you." And I was like, Like I'm the one that had to show up. Like it
Yeah, you're the one that had to show
backfired.
up, who had to eat clean, who was getting up at 5 a.m. and going to the pallet, like doing the absolute most
And
and
so
paying. So it's just like, I'm sorry, if I'm paying, I can't give you the credit for something that I'm paying for.
so it adapted a new language that I've done now. But so she met me during that time frame. So
Hmm.
here I am with my false humility, like, no, it's not me doing all the work as I'm sweating and gasping for air. And so at that time, um, I started about a year. Well, you're there for like 6 months a year, like
I
maybe
was there
six
for just
months.
6 months in
Six
2019.
months. I just started having all these like visions and dreams.
Yeah,
And
towards the end, yeah.
I was so mad because I was like, why are you like, I literally don't care. And so these dreams and these visions were getting heavier and heavier. And I was like, like I literally don't care because I just you should see who I have in my bedroom right now. Like you should see how many parties I have in my house. Like you should see like how I am on the weekends. Like I am like I literally don't care. So
She's
um
talking to, she's telling
she
God, this is a
and you
conversation
know
with
what?
God. Leave
I
me.
wouldn't even acknowledge him as God. I would just like, even though it was kind of obvious to me, it was like universe. Like we don't believe in God.
Yeah. We don't, we,
We don't do God stuff. And like the history that I have with the church is that I converted back in 1998. I got pretty screwed over by the people in the church, and I left. I left to protect my pastor because I love her very much. And so, and then along the way, I just hated, I couldn't say I hated Christianity. I hated everything that I believed. I hated everything. And I remember saying to God one day, you know what? I think you're cool, but your people suck. And so I just grew an intense bitterness. I grew a hate. Like if I found out you were a pastor or a preacher's kid, like I was out to destroy you and your self-esteem. And so I listened to nothing. I did not visit a church. I did not listen to gospel music. I did not listen to sermons. I did not listen to anything motivational, nothing. And so, in fact, I got to the point where if you needed God, you were weak because you couldn't do this on yourself. You couldn't figure it out by yourself. Like I got to that level of
oh,
like,
we have a common. Except I
yo,
had no church hurt.
yeah, like I was just so when I started seeing these things, like I started getting mad because I was like, all these people in church on Sunday, why don't you pick on them? And so,
By all these people, she means me and some of my people.
no, I didn't like the only time I knew the only reason why I knew Carol went to church because I was trying to have an event on Sunday. And she was like, not during my church time, not like during no, I'll be what not on Sunday. And that's the only time I knew that she went to church because she we could not have this event on Sunday. And that's the I was like, like so,
Yeah, because
but
at that time I was very 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in the church. So I was going to church faithfully on Sundays. Every Sunday, oh, I'm going to church. Can't do anything else but be at church on Sunday. But best believe on Friday and Saturday, I was, dropping it low, taking the shots, not living a very holy life.
yeah,
So
I didn't.
definitely, part of the two worlds, not fully committed to one of them or the other.
So when I started having all these visions and all these dreams, like it was non like I couldn't sleep. It was nonstop. And and to the point where I thought that discernment was punishment. And I didn't realize that discernment was protection. And I remember being in Vegas, like getting ready for another in-house competition. And I was in a sauna and it was like this. It was like everywhere I went, it was like this. And I was like, leave me alone, leave me alone. I'm like in the sauna. I'm like I'm doing all these things in the sauna. Thank God no one was there. That was already
Yeah,
signs.
you
I was
would
not
have ended
even
up at
checked
the
in.
hospital in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm not even checked in the hospital yet. And I'm like, and I'm like, kind of like leave me alone. And so finally, I deliver this message I'm supposed to, and it was apparently received well, but backfired behind my back. And this is the part where this is the reason why we're making the podcast. God is going to call you no matter where you're at.
It's gonna make you move.
He's going to make you move. Yes, he's a gentleman. But what I did not share one time was when I was in 2018, I woke up one day extremely hungover and I started writing down this prayer. And ooh, this is cool. I haven't prayed in a long time. And I remember it went something along the way like, um, give me the courage to step into the purpose that you have designed me to be. Remove anything and anyone that is getting in my way. And the reason why I said it so, yeah,
That's
I
a
know.
dangerous prayer. That's
Bro, let me tell you something. I didn't know it was a setup. Because at that time, I thought everyone that it was in my circle was for me. So I had no problem because I thought about, I was like, well, who's in my circle that's not for me?
yeah,
Everyone's
they're all
for me.
great. They're all so great.
There's
I
no,
wasn't in the circle yet. I came in 2029,
and so
2019,
I
so I wasn't there
started
yet.
saying that prayer and I was like, this is the dopest prayer ever. Next thing you know, this person starts leaving, that person starts leaving. I get into argument with this person, that, and I was like, whoa, whoa, what's going on? Whoa, I didn't ask for this. And I remember hearing, you asked for this. I said, no, 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 I did not. And I remember like, and
Like
keep in
you
mind,
wrote it down, sis.
there's no relation. I have no relationship with the Lord. These things just kept just popping out of nowhere. So come 2019, I delivered this message because good Lord, it would not leave me alone. And it backfired to the level of betrayal and hurt that I've never felt before in my life. That they had to call the ambulance on me for and be sectioned because of the
Just
like
the
I
depths of the betrayal and the pain that it caused.
that it hurt like because of the relationship that had been built. Like I finally got my life back after getting out of a very terrible relationship. I made a next move where I feel like this is the move. This I'm finally on track, and I'm finally on track just to be betrayed again. And I was like, what's the point of living, man? Like I just worked my tail off to get out of this dysfunctional relationship, and I'm finally on course just to be on the wrong road again.
Yeah,
Like
to
I
be in
can't,
another dysfunctional
and I
relationship.
and I and I couldn't like I couldn't handle that. And then I was like, and so I was like, never again will I deliver another message to no one ever again.
And I think it's important for us to just for me to go back to a point that you made, which was you were getting all of these visions and all of this pull and all of this like download from a prayer that you made that was being answered during a time that you thought, I don't even have a relationship with God, right? My point is sometimes we cannot have a relationship with him, but he still has a relationship with us.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether we are going to church, whether we're carrying a Bible around or not, he is still paying attention and he is still in a relationship with us, whether we hear him or acknowledge him or not. Right. So in
Yeah.
your case, you were like, I don't even have a relationship with you, my guy. I made this prayer kind of cute. And then he starts answering the prayer, and you're just like, wait, we've been on a 10-year break. Why are you messing with me?
17-year break. Which
17 years.
and I think the thing is that what's fascinating is that even when we are not reaching out, he's still reaching out and having our backs
Mm-hmm.
by saying like, "Hey, say this prayer," because God's a gentleman. He's
Mm-hmm.
not going to come in unless you ask.
Mm-hmm.
So during
Unless you
that
invite
prayer,
him. Yeah.
that was me asking, but not realizing what I was asking for. And so, and here I am, I'm paying the price of delivering a message, not realizing it was a prophetic word because
Yeah.
who has a prophetic gift? And so, no idea,
Prophet Desi.
but hold on, no idea, none. And I was like, put me in that position again. Put me in that position again. I promise you, I'm not going to say nothing because how dare you put me in that position? How dare I'm locked up? How dare I got my questioning myself? How dare I'm questioning my sanity? How dare you? You did this to me. And so I think on the second day of me locked up, I was on the sofa. And at that time, though, I was also very obsessed with possessions, like a reflection of my career, a reflection of my house and car. Like
Not
it was
spiritual
like
possessions, like
that
possession.
was my
Spiritual.
identity. Like my identity reflected in what I had.
Mm.
And I got to a point on day two after all that, and I said, you know what? I don't care what I lose no more. Like, what's the point? Like, I was at a, what's the point? And I'm in this waiting room. I'm by myself in this waiting room, and Joyce Meyer comes on, and I said, "Do I want to listen to any preacher right now? I mean, I'm locked up. What the like?
What else do you got to do?
What else do I got to do?" So this is until this day. Till this day, I have this piece of paper that I wrote, and it's dated 11/25, 2019. And this is what she preached this day on the TV. Your secrets will make you sick. Unhealthy past will not keep relationships. It what makes sickness in our bodies. We are not going to live our lives wounded. And I said, okay. And I made a deal. I said, if I make this phone call, if this phone call delivers the way I think it's going to deliver, I will listen to you for the rest of my life. But if it doesn't, I'll volunteer to stay here and I'll lose everything and start over. And that one phone call told me everything I needed to know. I said, bet, your turn. Now, did I keep my word? Hell no, I didn't keep my word. I did it. However,
God always comes to collect on the promises we make,
on
let me tell you.
that night, I had a dream. I had a dream, and I saw this big hand holding my hand, and I was like this, and I was just like, okay, so I did not see a path. I saw a path, but I saw no future. I only saw path and hand, and that's it. Surprisingly, I got a phone call that morning, and it said, I just had a dream about you. And I said, really? They're like, yeah, you were like holding this big hand. And so,
Hey, you didn't tell me
bro,
this.
yeah, I'm telling you, man, as much anti-God I wanted to be, I couldn't. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't
there's one of those things that you just can't question. Like there's
stand. Like
no way.
there's like it kept following me. Like everything just kept following me. And I said, okay, so here's the part where I want to share and why I do what I do today. On my way home, on my way home, I have a driver, the one that saved me. I'm in the passenger seat. And I was like, I don't see what's the point. Like, no matter what choices I make, no matter what decisions I make, it seems to be wrong. And I think everyone's a liar. I think everyone just has something up their sleeve. And I just don't see the point no more. Like, what's the point? And so I'm over here collecting and I'm over here like trying to figure out like what's the next step because I don't plan to stay here much longer. They had to clean my house before I was allowed to be in. When I say clean, like anything that, brings
Anything
harm.
sharp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna make one phone call. And I made a phone call, and that was to my pastor, and that was Pastor Cheryl. And I said, I don't want to hear about Jesus. I don't want to hear about prayer. And I don't want to hear about scriptures. Honestly, I just want to hear your voice. Because at that time, it was the only authentic voice I knew. I knew that she believed in what she believed in. I was able to witness with my own eyes that she stood her ground in what she believed in. And I just needed to just hear that. And she didn't like she listened to me. She wasn't like, "No, you need Jesus. You need," like she just listened to me. And I remember asking the Lord, "Is it worth living? Are there any authenticity here?" Now, this is the part where my life changed. And at that moment, no. But as I'm getting these visions, as I'm getting these things are just happening, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
you
like
can't turn on, turn off.
I can't, like, this is like, even people that didn't believe in God are like, bro, I think this is God. I go, you don't even believe in God. And so, like, everything was just so obvious, which was frustrating me. Now, this is the part where I was like, okay, you go to church, tell me what's going on. And crickets. Oh, man. My heart, listen, I,
Confusion at that point because I'm also like, at that time I had been in church for 10 years. I hadn't really had an encounter with Jesus, you know? So I was going to church and I was like, I believe in him and all that jazz, but I wasn't really like doing the thing, you know? And then you're going
Mhm.
through this crazy experience and you're just like, Caroline, what's happening? You were getting all this discernment and I was like on empty in the discernment bucket. So I was like, girl, I don't know. Like, I
No,
have
that
no idea.
okay, I know now, but back then I didn't know, and I was so mad. And I was like, "How do you not know?
Yeah, I
What
was like,
what's the point of going to
what?
church then?" Like I was so mad.
I have no idea. Like, I was just like, yeah, man, this is crazy. I'm with you on the this is crazy side. Like,
No,
I don't
and
know where it's
that
coming
was
from.
yeah. Listen, it like I know like for another year I was bitter and I was still angry because I was like I wanted clarity, I wanted answers, and like it seemed like no one can give me the answers I was looking for. And I remember sitting on that sofa, and I remember hearing clearly, "No one has the answer unless you ask me." And I said, "Nope." I was like, and I was like,
Oh,
"Nope." Instead, I was like, you. And then that's when I opened the door. This is if you want to know where my quickness comes from to move. The pride makes you think that you're powerful. Pride just makes you deaf, dumb, and blind.
oh yeah.
And it just makes you think you're powerful. It makes you think that you got it and blah, blah, blah. And in this foolishness, it also makes you think you're more powerful than God. That's why you don't ask.
Mm-hmm. Because you
And
know
this
better.
in this foolishness, you think you're stronger than God.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you hear like God made the heavens and earth and whatever, but you don't understand that level of power because you see yourself as more powerful in this foolish way.
Mm-hmm.
And so what humbled me was when I was like, no, F you, blah, 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 blah. And I remember like I saw this hand lifted, and behind his hand lifted was like all these thousands of demons that ran after me. I was like, holy smokes. And I just remember just like in this fetal position, just being like, I'm sorry. But the scariest part was knowing how powerful I was in the midst of that, meaning that I still have the ability, the power to say no, I don't want your help. And I
Mm-hmm.
think
It's your choice. Yeah. Free will.
that
Yeah.
moment made me go, holy smokes, I'm powerful, but you're more powerful because your hand is protecting me from what I'm not seeing. And
Mm.
that humbled me. That put me in my place because for once in my life, I recognize and I acknowledge that he was the OG.
Really? You didn't tell me
That's,
about the dream. I would have been scared.
it wasn't a dream, it was real life.
I would have, yo.
And that was the first night, and I said, I promise I'll do anything and everything you say. I promise. And I said this when I was on my knees, don't make me play church. Don't make me play church.
Mm.
And so I
Powerful.
passed out drunk. And I remember the next morning, like, go to that church. I was like, oh my God, is there any other churches on this planet? And that was RCC. That's the day with the video of me in the altar with Pastor David was praying. That's the next day. And I was like, man, why can't you just
Really? That's where it came from? He was
yes.
like, you better get
That
up
was
and
the
go.
next day. With that video of me folding at the altar was like, And I was like, oh my God, why can't I just be left? Like, why can't you just leave me alone? And so after that, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. And that was the last time. And so fast forward, I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for like, what is this? And I felt like no one can help me with that. And I was like, so confused by that. And people think like I'm a jerk when I say that. I'm like, how do you not know? Like, I don't know how, like, and people are like, oh yeah, like, I'm like, and the reason why I could not relate is because I was rejected from the church, so I could not been able to relate.
Yeah, and honestly, I think for a lot of people who are currently in the church, well, let me not generalize. Your testimony is so impactful, and you don't really see a lot of other examples of what like you experience in the testimony that you have. So it's like you're coming in with an experience that's like on a completely different level and playing field than what we're doing. So no one there can talk to you about what you're going through because they've never gone through it, they've never seen it,
You have
they
to
don't
understand, like, I
understand.
had no idea. Like, I had none. And when I was like sharing these visions, I got like, okay. I was like, holy smokes. Like, and then I had people like questioning, like, are you really called? Like, bro, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah, like
I don't, no, no, no,
how
no. I
God
don't,
works.
like, I didn't ask, like, I don't even know why you're trying to come up to me and to see if this is real. Like, I didn't ask for this. Like, I didn't ask for none of this. I
I'm
was asking God,
here.
why did he pick one of y'all? Like, why did he pick me? Why did he pick one of y'all? So I didn't ask for this. And so that was very surprising to me. Like people questioning, like, and I'm like, no, I don't like if there was a choice, I would not like, yes, I have a choice, but do I have a choice? Like, and it was so confusing for me in the very beginning. Like, I had no idea. I wish like the fight that I fought to keep this. Like I fought and fought and I held on to it with my whole entire life. What really helped me, what really helped me was when I built that gym that I did not want to, and when Pastor Davey got sick, and I was
Yeah,
trying to go back to
COVID.
Chicago, and then
Mhm.
Pastor Ron was like, "Don't come back." I was like, "Do you know how broke I am?" And so I listened. I stayed in Boston. A month afterwards, that's when Pastor David reached out to me via Facebook because I was posting videos of the gym. And that's why I'm very shocked when people don't use their platform. And so he reached out to me and I told him, you helped me so much. You can have any day you want, and it's yours.
Yeah, you used to open camp and keep it just for
Just
when
for
he
them.
was coming, separate from the other days that camp was open for just the general public.
I close Tuesdays and Thursdays just for them.
Mhm.
And till this day, it's kind of like very similar. But I also want to talk about like we talked about this before I push record position where if like you had the vision of the Get Fit ministry
Oh yeah, I used to joke
while
about
I
it
was
all
partying
the
my
time.
arse off.
I was always like, "Oh, we gotta do a little workout situation here at the church." Past me and my sister used to joke around about it. Get the Get Fit ministry.
Yeah, you guys
Everybody
even
would just
posted
kind
on
of
social
laugh
media.
about it. We never did anything. We talked about it, how the church needed it, and how it was great, and how we should get to it and get it done, and we never did. The last thing I thought about, like I used to joke about it and see that like it was needed, but I never did anything about it. So the last thing I would have thought was that like that the pastors would have needed a gym during COVID when he got so sick from like the COVID, long COVID. Um,
Yeah. And this is where when people say like how important your yes is, it
yeah,
is. But I think a lot of people only move when they know there's a cookie at the other side.
yeah.
Like there's a reward at the other side. Like they want to know why they have to move. And so I'm like, no, you just move.
Yeah.
So I had no idea why I was building gym, but I knew like in exchange for my sleep and for my peace, I'm gonna
Yeah, for that hand
continue
to stay right there and the demons to stay
like
back.
the thorn on my side. Like you keep building this gym. I'm like, yes, sir. And here I am, like just building a gym, driving to Maine, driving to Rhode Island, picking up pieces. I'm down there by myself, just painting, putting equipment. No idea why nobody came. And so, yeah,
And it was actually for veterans. It was not
it was
intended for
only for
church
veterans.
ever.
Veterans didn't come. I was like, what? Why do I have this? Like, and then I'm getting mad again. I'm getting mad after mad after mad. And I'm like, why you have me building this gym for? Like,
Hmm.
and so spending all my money,
And you're getting ridiculed for it too.
and then I'm getting ridiculed. I'm getting blackballed. I'm getting people like, why are you going to her gym for? Why are you supporting her? And I'm like, bro, I don't even want this. And I think it's so like, I share that a lot because. I as much like I think as people, it's very hard for people to believe like how far I've come. I fought for this. And one of the like biggest pet peeves that I see is when you take away somebody's fight, you don't know like you're taking something so valuable away from them that
Mhm.
because even till this day I still have to fight for it, but not as much as I did in the very beginning. This fighting thing, like we good here right now, but I still have to fight for it. And so one of the things that I've learned is that if you don't step into position, someone will. And God will use
God will find somebody else.
a complete nobody who like and says, okay, like she'll listen. Maybe she could be a little hard-headed, but she'll listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't even know I had those listening skills.
I didn't realize I lacked those listening skills. Talk about that. Because I was like, wait, you want me to do what? Okay, but I need like the detailed instructions. Like I need the next step. Like I
Yeah.
need the dimensions, the measurements, the budget. Like I need, and God doesn't work that way.
No, I just like he was like, move. I like, sir, fine, whatever.
Yeah, God be like, move it. I'm like, okay, where? When am I going? How do you want me to get there? How much is it gonna cost? How early do I have to get? You're just like, all right, we're going.
And so if you want to know why I move the way I do, is because I've learned that
Mm-hmm.
this is how we work together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes like the contract that I sign with God is that in exchange for my peace of mind, I will move. And so it's worked from all the heavy duty mental illnesses I had from PTSD to suicide ideation to major depressive disorder.
Depression.
There's one, I can't pronounce it, but I was diagnosed where I'm unable to feel joy, recklessness, and like the list just goes on. And so, in order for me to be here, I was like, okay, so in exchange for my healing, I'll sign this contract, I'll move. But I don't
Yeah,
care
I'll
about the questions,
obey.
I don't care about the dimensions, I don't care where it's coming from. You want me to move? I'll move. And it's been the greatest medicine for me.
Mm.
Now, do I like it? No. And I think this is a struggle that me and him have because I'm like, is there anything else? Is there like a book you want me to read? Like, and,
Is there anyone I can reach out to that can teach me this stuff or that I can
and
like
I'm still like,
program?
till this day, I'm like still looking for this like somehow like this mentorship for like the next level dimension that I know that I'm going for, but it seems sometimes out of reach sometimes. And so fast forward, I wanted to talk about this part. Fast forward, um, recently, I came to the conclusion that God has answered my prayer from 5 years ago. So you see how I mentioned like the car ride, right? Like, is there anything authentic? And one thing I want to share with you guys, like, you don't get to pick your healing. I went from very angry, very bitter, very persecuting mindset to my phone's phone book being filled with all sorts of pastors that I truly love and adore. And I love serving with them. I love serving along with them. I love seeing them win. I love, like, what do you need help with? And I realized that my answered prayer from 5 years ago in that car ride is exactly the life that I'm living right now.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
so make you a little emotional, huh?
Yeah, but I'm a thug, so I'm gonna thug it out.
You're, and so I think along like if I was still prideful, if I was still stubborn, if I was still egoistic, like it was hard. Like it was hard to get here. I mean, so many people questioned me. I questioned me. I so many people of faith was like, is this it? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I need you to tell me. Like I need some kind of guidance. And I realized I just wasn't going to get it. I just wasn't going to get it. I all I had to do was just move. Like I heard clearly, but the thing that scared me was delivering messages. And like I've gotten better at it, but like from the time 2018, man, 2019, like to where I'm at now, Carol's a witness. Like I'm pretty confident in my gift now. And
Yeah,
I
you never doubt where it's coming from.
no, but I
I
did
would
pay a price
say,
for it.
yeah, I would say now you're more comfortable with giving it, but it still weighs heavy on you because you know you just you've experienced the 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 backlash or the reaction. And so it still weighs heavy on you to you give the message. You don't doubt that it comes from God. You don't doubt that, it's accurate, but you're like, what's gonna come back? Like what's gonna be the
Yeah,
reaction?
that
How
lingers.
is it gonna be received? And I think that part still weighs heavy on you.
Mm, I'm sitting with it better. Um, what's interesting is that God will give you a gift to help you overcome the thing that has um
Played you for so long.
handcuffed you, which is if you're a people pleaser, then he's going to put you in a position where you're constantly rejected. And it's not for punishment, it's literally for protection and so that you can overcome the thing that has surrendered your identity. And I had to learn that. And that was very, very, very hard for me to accept because I like being liked. I remember when Pastor Noah said that at the Purpose Conference, I'm like, same. I like being liked. And I remember when Pastor Davey spoke over my life, he was like, there will be a table for like there will be a table. What's that scripture where like a
Like
table
there will be a table set for you before your enemies.
and everyone's,
Yeah, like there will be a table set for you
yeah, and
before
everyone's like,
your
oh, amen. I'm like, enemies, enemies. What did I do?
Who don't hate me?
Everyone loves that scripture, and I'm like, enemies.
Low key me too though. I'm like,
What did
enemies.
I do?
I have no enemies. I don't want enemies.
So that was hard, man. Like, and then exchanging your revengeful heart for forgiveness. And you can't say like, everyone likes to quote that scripture, like, Lord, the vengeance says the Lord says the vengeance is mine. The Lord says vengeance is mine. Like no ounce of vengeance in your heart. None.
None.
And that took almost 2 years for me to like really understand that. And I feel for people when they just want to hurry up and skip the process and just like, oh, I'll just forgive them. Yeah, but then you run away from them. Like
Yeah.
me, like when I'm in the room, I'm in the room because I forgave.
Hmm.
So that took 2 years. Understanding and processing is 2 years. It was a lot of work. And one of the greatest peace that I have is as I see all these pastors in their callings and their gifts, and I see all the rejection that comes with it, the hardest thing is keeping a pure heart. Mind blown. So God answered my prayer. Are there authentic people in this world? He answered my prayer because it's a privilege to see their will in exchange for God's to be able to serve with a pure heart, even after they're constantly hurt and rejected.
And to show up day after day after day after day.
Oh, and obviously, like it teaches me, like, okay, so I have to not do this, I have to do this, I have to protect this, I have to cut this off, I have to cut these people off so that I can have a pure, like, it's hard, but my prayers were answered in the most unique way. So I want to share with people that there's answers out there that you're looking for, but you can't pick how you want them to be answered.
Yeah, you can't pick what those answers look like, right? Um, God uses his wisdom to show how our wisdom is like not even comparable. Like at his weakest, he is still way stronger than us. And at his like lowest point in wisdom, he is still way wiser than us.
When I learned that God is a genius, like in a really authentic way, I was like, I'm dumb. Like not in a like, like I have no problem surrendering this part of me because like you are the OG of wisdom. So why am I trying to interfere?
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned to separate you hear you've I've said this to you a lot. It's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing I've learned in the last seven or in the 17 years of that I rejected um Christianity, God, and the people, because I've met so many people that try to witness to make it about them and never, and assuming they're making it about God. I've met too many people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that torture taught me how to separate me very well. It's not about me.
Yeah, it's
And
not.
because so many people made it about them, I was like, I never want to repeat that
Yeah,
trauma
I'm
ever again.
defending God by attacking you.
Like for 17 years, like thank you for torturing the hell of my life because you taught me how not to repeat it. And so, um, yeah. So my 5 years of from the beginning to now, what's your intake from this? Like,
What I mean, I've witnessed the whole process, and I
and
think
you used to work for my house too.
I used to, yeah, and I used to be like, oh, I have to like behave when I'm in here because like God talks to her in here.
You never told
Not
me
that I
that.
was planning on like doing stupid stuff at your house, but I was like, oh, I have to be disciplined because she's like so disciplined here. It's just like the discipline is rubbing off. I have to be on my best behavior because, Desi is like on another level in here. Um, no, but for me it was very again, just very motivating and very inspiring. Like I knew that I did not have the discernment or that level of closeness to God, that level of discipline, of obedience or trust in him. I think it was recently that I told you like, "Oh, I get it now. Like now that I've had my encounter with God, I'm like, girl, me and the Holy Spirit we're tight too. Like I get it now.
Yeah,
I
I want to,
finally understand."
if you guys want to know, like this is just 2 months ago. The whole year or 2 years that Carol used to work for my house, we saw things very opposite, but we were
Hmm.
never disrespectful.
No, we would agree to disagree. We would
Every
have debates
single
all the
day,
time.
every day.
I
I
wouldn't
welcome
say that I
it.
necessarily challenge you. Like I would never be like, oh, that's not true. But I always did bring up a different perspective. Or
Always.
I would always just ask for clarification. So I was like constantly like nitpicking or constantly like pushing back, like that doesn't make sense, or explain it this way, or like what do you mean, or let me rephrase, or just constantly having that back and forth. Because I genuinely did not understand. And I think a lot of times for you, it also challenged you to communicate differently. Like, okay,
Yeah,
like if I'm
I
not
welcomed
understanding
it.
this, I need to like explain it a different way, or maybe I need to use a different word, or maybe I'm not understanding
Oh
it fully.
yeah.
I need to like process this more.
I
Um,
definitely, well, I loved it. I welcomed it because it challenged me to find better delivery, better words. Um, and I'm like, if Carol can't be the only one that thinks like this. There's multiple Carols. And so I was like, yeah. And then finally, like the Lord showed me, is like she has a different agenda than you. And so anytime I would say something, she would do this. I'm like, Carol, you gotta do this, this, and this, and this. And she'd be like, this and this, but like, what, why? Because she didn't want to like be obedient and submit to it. But she'd be like, but why? Can we just do it like this? And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. And
yeah.
so, but at
For
the
me,
same
it was just
time,
like if something didn't make sense, I wasn't gonna do it.
yes,
Which is literally my own agenda, right? Like
yes. And I learned that along the way.
in my limited, I don't know. I mean, I'm 34, so you met me, I was 28, turning 29.
Mhm.
Um, so it's still a lot of immaturity. I mean, yeah, like I'm grown, but like I'm still playing at being grown, you know? Um, I would use my experience and what I knew or thought I knew to justify how to move or try to figure out how to move. And when you're like when God is telling you to do something, all of that goes out the window. So
Yeah.
it's just like it doesn't work that way. And you always moved in a way that yes, I knew it was God, but to me it just didn't make sense. I'm like,
Yeah. Like
what do you
my
mean you're
actions,
opening a gym and you have
my actions,
no
yeah, my actions shut a lot of people up.
it was like, what do you mean you're opening a gym and it's gonna be free? Where are you gonna get them? Like, why are you
Yeah, Carol was against it.
free
She was against my tean. She was
against the team? I was like, none of these people lift. Like
Yeah.
what team are you seeing power lift? What? You've never even been to a powerlifting competition. I was like, what is this?
I said, listen, I gotta be obedient,
And
bro.
she's like, no, they're power lifters. I was like, they're literally afraid of the bar.
That's the truth. And we went to
And
oh,
then
you
they were
know,
like
we're traveling all
champions,
over the
like two,
world.
3 years later.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
But I want to say this. I think this is important to say. Yes, me and Carol debated a lot. And I want to emphasize that we were never disrespectful. Because one thing what about Carol is that she kept coming around with the intent to still learn, even if it was difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then that coming around with that intention broke that stubbornness, like
Absolutely.
2 years later. And so some people are just prideful and stubborn. You ain't gonna go nowhere. Carol was intentional and stubborn. She had an
Yeah.
intention, bro, like I know what I need to do, but I want to be stubborn. But I know that like I have to eventually face it. So there was still a lot of receiving. Like, and a lot of people that I meet that want my help, they have a big wall up and there's nothing they can receive, but they're trying to like exhaust me. Carol
Yeah. Or they just, yeah.
exhausted me because she was still receiving and processing, and the Lord is responsible for stirring up that spirit. Hence why it's, like it's manifesting now. It's like showing now. The fruit is showing now.
Yeah.
So if you have a fruit of pride, a fruit of stubbornness, it's not
There's
gonna
no
grow.
growth.
There's
There's
no
no
growth.
growth in that. God can't move until well, God can always move. Let me correct that.
He can't work with pride though, because pride thinks it's greater than what you can
Pride is
handle.
a block.
Yeah.
Yeah, pride is a complete block. And as arrogant as I may be sometimes, or as confident, I'll use confident, as I can be sometimes, I would say proud is not necessarily something that I was or have
No,
been
no.
in a while. To where, you could tell me stuff that will make other people cry, and I would just be like, all right, I'll see you on Friday. Like I'm coming, like I'm not offended by this. Like
No, she's not.
you're telling me the truth. Yeah, I either know or no, I didn't know, and now I'm going to go and process it and become more self-aware. But I'm not going to go away because you hurt my feelings because you're telling me the truth. Like, no, I'm gonna keep coming back, and eventually I'll get it. And I used to tell you too, I was like, eventually I'll do it. Like, eventually I'll,
Yeah,
get my act in order and be disciplined and like whatever the case and be obedient or whatever. Um, but I stayed around because I had heard from another pastor say, you go where you see that the oil is, so that by being in proximity to the oil, hopefully whatever spills over will spill onto you.
correct.
And I was like,
And one of my
something's
favorite
going on here.
one of my favorite things is I question everyone that runs away from the oil. I question everyone. You run away from it, I question you. And you always ran to it.
Yeah.
So, one thing is that I want to close is I think this is a great conversation interview. That one of the things I've learned is that, it was hard. Like coming from like being in the military for 10 years, I like being militant, right? But I realized that not being militant always works. Then I realized that compassion and empathy works. And then I realized, and then I couldn't
That too much
separate.
of that.
I
Yeah.
couldn't, and then I was realizing like, wait, like I'm confusing empathy with enabling. And so like, and that's another reason why like I have to be careful that I'm not enabling you by showing you empathy. And I realized like when so many people were like, "Oh, Desi's tough and this and that," and that bothered me for so long because I was like, I don't want to be like, I don't think it's cute when you're just like, "Roar, roar, roar," like this pit bull for no reason. Like I remember like I had this conversation with the Lord, like I don't mind being tough, I don't mind being militant, but like what where am I going wrong at, right? And so I want to share this part. Like, number one, when I was going through therapy and I felt very exposed and vulnerable, there was compassion. It worked. So compassion works. The other part is having the diagnosis that I have of, I asked my therapist, like, what is the definition, the scientific definition of major depressive disorder, and it's pretty much like being stuck in the same spot, and it did. It's like carrying sandbags and you're running on quicksand. You're not going nowhere. And so I realized the thing that I'm tough on is what's holding me back, but not who I am. And so many people have carried the identity of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, like that is their identity. So when I am talking to the what, they think I am talking to the who.
Mhm.
And so they're like, oh, I'm like, no, like I'm talking to the thing that's choking you, but I'm trying to bring out the best out of you. And even till this day, like I have events, classes, and everything that wants to bring out the who, that the who God made you to like become, because like sometimes the what is what's really holding us back.
Mhm.
And and when I realized that the what, if we can remove the what, then who we become is truly the limitless that God called us to be.
Mhm.
And that took 5 years to finally find and have confidence in. And a lot of people confuse my confidence with toughness. And I'm like, no, like I just know who I am now.
Yeah.
But I paid a price for it.
Yeah. There's an authority that we get to walk around in when we are sure we know who we are.
Oh yeah.
That it doesn't matter the failure, it doesn't matter the situation, it doesn't matter the what. You're just like, that's an event that'll pass and that's temporary. But who I am, I know who I am, and my identity doesn't change by the situation that I experience.
No, like what I went through, what like what it like for the longest before I step into who I am now, like I had a hard time finding my identity because I felt like I became what everyone else wanted me to become. And then when I finally became who I am now, like this is when all the backlash of like, oh, you think you know everything. No, like you can't control me no more. You can't manipulate me
Mm-hmm.
no more. It worked before, but it's just like now like I have no more
I'm not
handcuffs.
Play-Doh anymore.
Yeah, I don't have any more handcuffs. And like you're like I have keys. I have keys to every handcuff now. Like you can't handcuff me. You can't recruit me. And so but I definitely enjoyed this conversation. I
Oh,
love
the
that you were able
same.
to witness. So I love that you always had good intention to be my friend.
I always loved you. Still kind of obsessed with you.
But if anyone does watch this whole thing, if you want to know why I do events all the time and classes, I have a strong desire to see people win. Like it hurts me when people surrender to anything less than who they're become. And if you want to know like why I do things for free, is because it's really for you. And I genuinely love seeing people, and it does like I don't want no credit. If you heard from the very beginning of the interview, that nightmare that I went through when I gave other people credit, like you can ask all my athletes, I don't want credit. If you didn't show up, there's no win. And and that's what, thanks to that trauma, like I love that God wins. Love it.
Mhm.
And so any finishing words, Carol?
No, I mean, listen, it's been a blessing. I think, for me in my growth and in my maturity, it's been honestly a privilege to be able to have an example in you and in your life. And also, I can say that through you, that like you were the first living example of me seeing God's hand actually move in somebody's life in a way that to me was like miraculous.
Mhm.
Um, and the blueprint that you have yet to find in other people. Like, I'm grateful that God is like, hey, I'm gonna ask you to do some like real crazy things, but you actually have someone that you can look to that has already walked down this path that you can go and learn from, because I know that that's something that you have asked for and wanted, and that's not how God is working with you. So for me, it's a blessing that I can you know, witness everything that is going on in your life, that it has incredibly motivated me, that it has, before I had an encounter with God, there was no question in my life that God was active and moving and attentive, because I got to see how he did in your life. So even just through osmosis and through being able to see what was going on with you, my belief in him strengthened. And so, yeah, man, it's been beautiful to watch. Like I said, I'm blessed. I'm happy that a beautiful friendship, continued and strengthened and was restored from a very dark and negative experience. Um, I thank you for your honesty. And honestly, still very in awe by your willingness to share. Like, you never want to keep anything to yourself. Everything is
Yeah,
for the benefit
and
of
I
the
think it's because
community.
of what like
Sharing.
I don't think it's because of what I went through. Like it's to me like if if you're able to listen and not go through it, then I'll share as much as possible.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I it's just because of that.
Yeah.
So,
It's been awesome. Thank you for inviting me to have another podcast. We haven't done this in a while.
thank you so much. All right. Ciao, everyone.